Hey everyone, this is Princess here, and in this video we are going to be talking about our next story character, which is going to be Mog from Final Fantasy VI, probably one of the cutest characters to come into Opera Omnia. So his synergy, or his banner mates, are going to be Kane and Vincent, and we're going to talk a little bit about his kit and about what the Lufenia is going to be for the story. So let's get started. Looking at Mog's kit, his crystal affinity is blue, his weapon type is spears, and his spheres are C, D, and E. His roles are ranged, attacker, support, and healer. Mog's first skill is called Jump, which is a 2-hit water range brave HP attack that deals splash damage, and this grants him Dragon Horn for 6 turns. After using Jump, this will change into Continuous Jump, so it's the same thing as Jump, but it just raises Brave by Max Brave and then follows up with a Brave HP attack. After using Continuous Jump, it then reverts back into Jump. As for Dragon Horn, what this does is raises the party's Max Brave and attack, and it lowers all enemies' speed. His second skill is called Water Harmony, which raises the party Brave by Max Brave, and then follows up with a 2-hit AoE Water Range Brave HP attack that deals split damage. It does deal more Brave damage on single targets. So what this does is it lowers targets' Thunder and Water resist for 4 turns, and it grants the Water Harmony effect for 4 turns. So just a little more detail on what Water Harmony does. It grants Water Enchant to Mog and HP Regen to the party, and then after HP attacks, Mog will trigger either El Nino or Plasma. So El Nino will trigger if a party member has a debuff on them. So what it does is it removes 2 debuffs from the party, it raises Party Brave by Max Brave, and then follows up with a 2-hit AoE Water Range Brave single target HP attack that deals splash damage. And then if there is no debuffs on the party, he will use Plasma instead. Plasma raises the party Brave by Max Brave, follows up with a 2-hit AoE Thunder and Water Range Brave single target HP attack. It deals splash damage, and it has a low chance of confusing the target. And we have a C65, which is Boost All, which will raise the party's Max Brave for 3 turns. Looking at his call ability, it is going to be Jump. So when you call Mog in, he's going to use his Jump attack, and then for 3 turns, he raises the party's Max Brave and attack and lowers all enemies' speed. Using Jump will grant a 120% Stolen Brave overflow and extends the call effect for 3 turns. Going over to the extensions now, so using Jump or Continuous Jump will now deal 4 Brave hits, it raises total Brave potency, and Dragon Horn will increase by 20% and by 5%. Then when using Jump, this raises own Brave by Max Brave before Brave attacks, and now has a 150% Max Brave overflow. And when using Continuous Jump, it raises Brave based on Max Brave, it raises own Brave by HP damage dealt after the first HP attack, and has a 180% Max Brave overflow. Going over to the Water Harmony extension, so you get 1 extra use of Water Harmony, and when using Water Harmony, it raises the Brave gain based on Max Brave, it adds 4 Brave hits, increases total Brave potency, and has a 150% Max Brave overflow. When Water Harmony is active, it changes his Brave and HP attack variants into Brave and HP attack plus. So Brave attack plus is now 2 Brave hits that are water based, and it also raises Party Brave by Max Brave. And HP attack becomes HP attack plus, which is a water range Brave HP attack that raises own Brave by Max Brave. Moving on to recommended artifacts, what you really want to go for is attack, his Max Brave, and then his C50. I know it's not translated on here, I just did a quick translation of it. So what it does is it raises attack and Max Brave when he has the Dragon's Horn buff active on him. Going over to his armor now, his 35 CP armor is the Mithril Shield. This adds 220 to his Max Brave and 84 to his defense. His 90 CP armor is the Guard Bracelet, which adds 110 to his initial Brave and 72 to his attack. And then when you realize it, it adds 680 to his HP and 220 to his Max Brave. Finally, we have his 7-star armor, which is Molulu's Charm. This will raise the party's cap Brave damage by 5%. Moving on to his weapons, his 15 CP weapon is the Heavy Lance. So using Jump or Continuous Jump raises Brave potency, it lowers all targets' Thunder and Water resist for 4 turns. Jump will extend Dragon Horn for 6 turns, and then Continuous Jump raises the Brave gain based on Max Brave. His 35 CP weapon is called the Golden Spear, so Water Harmony now raises Brave gain based on Max Brave, it raises Brave potency and extends Water Harmony for 4 turns. Next we have his EX weapon called the Radiate Lance, and this grants him the skill Moogle Rush. So what this does is it raises the party Brave based on max Brave. It does a 6-hit AoE water range Brave HP attack that deals full damage. It has a 120% max Brave overflow, and it grants Moogle Warrior for 3 turns. So Moogle Warrior will raise the party's stolen and gain Brave overflow limit, and it raises party Brave damage dealt when Mog's HP is at least 50%. Finally, we have his LD weapon called the Holy Lance, and this grants him the skill Moogle March. So what this does is it recovers party HP based on Mog's HP. It's a 2-hit AoE water range Brave HP attack delivered 3 times, and then it raises party Brave by max Brave, and then does another 2-hit water range Brave HP attack. It deals split damage, and the Brave hits are going to be distributed. It has a 150% max Brave overflow. It grants Water Harmony for 12 turns and a free skill use on the next turn. Looking at the LD call, so when you call Mog in, he will use his skill Moogle March. So he does pretty much the same thing as I mentioned before, and then when you're using the Moogle March call, it adds 4 Brave hits, it raises total Brave potency, and has a 120% max Brave overflow. Moving on to the EX passives, at 1 out of 3 you get Moogle Rush Power, which raises Brave damage dealt with Moogle Rush. At 2 out of 3 you get Moogle Warrior Long, which extends Moogle Warrior for 3 turns. And then at 3 out of 3 you get Moogle Rush Recast Up, which will raise recast speed. Then for the LD passives, at 1 out of 3 you get Moogle March Power, which raises Brave damage dealt with Moogle March. At 2 out of 3 you get Water Harmony Start and El Nino Plasma Plus. So what this does is Water Harmony will now raise party Brave by Mog's Brave at the start of a turn and lowers all enemy speed by 10%. It was 5% previously, now it's going to be at 10. So you also start the quest with Water Harmony for 6 turns, and El Nino and Plasma will become El Nino Plus and Plasma Plus. So what they both do essentially is they raise Brave gain based on max Brave, they add 3 Brave hits, raise total Brave potency, and they have a 120% max Brave overflow. The thing is though, with Plasma Plus, the confusion chance is still the same, being at 15%. Finally, at 3 out of 3, you get Moogle March Charge, which adds 1 use to Moogle March, and each time you limit break this LD, it raises Mog's max Brave and his attack. Now moving on to the realized passives, at 0 out of 3 you get Moogle Rush Brave Hit plus Force buff up. So Moogle Rush will now do 8 Brave hits, it raises total Brave potency, and it raises Moogle Warrior's effects. At 1 out of 3, you get Dance Choreography Extension Attack Boost Up, so this raises max Brave and attack when you equip his EX Plus or the EX Plus passive. Then at 2 out of 3, you get Dragonhorn and Moogle Warrior buff recast start, so you start the quest with Dragonhorn and Moogle Warrior for 6 turns, and you get a free skill use, and jump will instantly change into Continuous Jump. Finally, at 3 out of 3, you get Moogle Rush Brave Hit plus Force Advance Brave Up plus plus. So Moogle Rush raises Brave gain based on max Brave. It now adds 10 Brave hits, raises total Brave potency, and raises stolen Brave overflow limit. While Water Harmony is active, this will also change the Brave and HP attack variants again, but this time it will be Brave and HP attack plus plus. So Brave attack plus plus is a now 3 Water Brave hits that raises party Brave based on max Brave. And then HP attack plus plus is a 2-hit Water Brave HP attack that raises Mog's Brave based on max Brave, and it has a 120% max Brave overflow. The spear that you get from realizing Mog's EX is a D-spear called Buff Success Raging Boost All. So after granting a buff, it raises the party's max Brave by 1% up to 5 times. It is once per turn, and same spears do not stack. So the boss that you fight at the very end of the story is called a Dullahan or Dullahan. I don't know what the pronunciation is, but it absorbs ice elements, but it is weak to fire and water. Okay, so when you start this fight on Lufenia, the key things to note is that the boss will reduce player party's Brave recovery effects, it reduces Brave damage taken, it cannot be knocked back, and it cannot be delayed. Going over to the attacks, its recast ability is called Absolute Zero. This will dispel all debuffs that it has, including frame debuffs. It recovers from break. It removes 1 buff from each party member, including frames. It then does an AoE Ice Magic Brave HP attack that can inflict Grave Curse on all targets. Keep in mind that this attack will ignore effects that reduce or nullify Brave damage, and Grave Curse can sap HP each turn. And this is kind of like the big gimmick for this boss, is that it can ignore effects that nullify Brave damage or just reduce Brave damage. It will also continuously recover from break and also raise its Brave when it's doing its attack, specifically plus variants. So going over to its countdown ability. So its countdown ability is Northern Cross Plus, where it recovers from break, dispels debuffs and party buffs, and then does an AoE Ice Magic Wave HP attack that can kill the party. It's a guaranteed hit and can ignore last stand effects. So some of its usual attacks, there is Blizzara. It does have Blizzaga at a higher level, and then Throw. Northern Cross, it will recover from break, raises its Brave, does an AoE Ice Magic Wave HP attack, and then applies Ice Bind to the field. Again, this ignores Brave damage reduction or Brave damage null. It does deal extra HP damage to debuff targets, and Ice Bind will prevent a turn until the boss's next turn. The effect can still apply to Revival and to friend characters, and it does have a low turn rate. So then going over to Ruin Holy over here. It's an AoE Magic Brave attack that deals extra Brave damage to debuff targets and can inflict Ruin to the party. Ruin Holy Plus is the same thing, but now it's a Brave HP attack. It can recover from break, raises Brave, dispels one buff from the party as well. Morningstar is a pretty annoying attack though. Well, not this one specifically. This one is just a melee Brave attack that raises Brave. It's a counter Morningstar that you have to be careful for because this will counter any melee attacks by raising its Brave, doing a Brave HP attack. It will dispel buffs, and it can inflict paralysis. Then we have Enmity over here. It's a Magic Brave attack that can lower initial and max Brave and inflicts poison. Enmity Plus adds a Brave recovery, a Brave increase, a Brave HP attack that can ignore Brave damage reduction, and again nullifies Brave damage. And then at the very last bit over here, so Exuding Sinister Power, this will raise all of its stats except for defense. It reduces Brave damage taken and reduces party Brave recovery effects. Further Exuding is the same thing, but now it prevents a force break, meaning you can't instantly break it with characters like Jack or Trey. So you gotta be careful. So alternative characters that you can use for this Lufenia. For starters, you want to avoid using anyone with melee attacks. Go with someone who can do ranged attacks instead. This can be someone like Cloud or Furion. I know I didn't put them on here, I forgot to. For other characters who have synergy, there is Terra and Deuce as well. Paladin, Cecil, and Aerith can help with healing and like preventing debuffs. And if you wanted to go with someone who can do water damage, Rydia is the only character that I could really think of. There's not really other characters who can deal like water enchant aside from Rydia and Mog, so if you're not pulling for Mog, it's best to go for Rydia, or best to use Rydia instead for the Lufenia. So here is the Lufenia, like a little more detail about the Lufenia fight for this boss. So the orb starts at 20, it appears when the battle starts, cancels below 80%, and then reappears below 50%. And the requirement is to deal water Brave damage, which can be done with either Mog or with Rydia. So with that being said, I'm now going to head over to Opera Omnia JP, and I'm going to showcase Mog's skills. So give me a quick second. Alright, so we're back in Opera Omnia now. So here is my Mog over here. Initially, when he first came out, I actually skipped him because I was still busy trying to get Terra's Eldian Burst. But his kit does come back. It's going to be like months later on though, which is like when Sid Reigns comes out, which is going to be months from now. So here's his LD passive on him equipped. I have pretty much everything purpled on him because he's adorable and I love him. So right off the bat, we have the... Excuse me, there we go. So here's the Water Harmony effect on him. This is the Moogle Warrior buff and the Dragon Horn buff on him. And he does start off with a free skill use. So we're going to do... so this is his skill 1. This is Continuous Jump, though. So we're going to do Continuous Jump. Yeah, because we did have the... Oh, right over there. He had a small chance of confusing the target. So what happened there was... That was a Plasma Plus. Or, yeah, that was just Plasma Plus. That was it. But if any of the party members did have a debuff, then he would use El Nino. Alright, so now we are going to do his second skill, which is Water Harmony. Then he uses Plasma Plus again. And he confused one of the enemies again. Wow! Okay, so now we are going to use his LD. This is my favorite animation for this, by the way. It's so cute. Watch this. He gets a little army of Moogles. I love that animation so much. It's so cute. Alright, so then we also have these little zombie enemies here. There is going to be a co-op for this as well. It's kind of like what they did with Arc 2 Chapter 6, so like with the Chaos co-ops in the story. So I'm gonna... Alright, so I think this should be enough to get Mog's EX ready. I'm gonna skip ahead though to when it's ready. Alright, so here's Moogle Rush. And then he finishes with Plasma Plus. And he confused the boss too. Alright, so just to recap on what Mog brings to the party. So first off, he buffs up the party a lot with his auras. They are all, you know, based off of his Max Brave, so if you want him to like be a really supportive party buff, you want to stack up on Max Brave for his artifacts. His follow-ups can also dispel debuffs. His Brave Gain effects are really helpful to the party. He works really great as a call too, and honestly, he's just really adorable, and his animations are really fun to watch, especially his LD animation. So that covers up everything for Mog. Thank you guys very much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let me know if you're going to be pulling for his kit or if you're just going to skip and wait or pull for somebody else. And I will see you all next time.